DOC number 382214, second class offender, parole eligibility date 2/15/2022. Not eligible for good time, full term date 8/15/2051, 49-year 6-month sentence, armed robbery, is habitual offender. Does that sound correct?
Correct.
All right, Mr. Palms, how old are you?
I'm 57
How long have you been incarcerated?
for 20 years.
20 years on a 49-year sentence. What do you currently do in the facility? What do you do there?
I'm a orderly, a rec room orderly at night. I do the floors.
So you're a trustee?
No, sir.
No. Do you have a GED or high school diploma?
Yes, sir.
Did you get it while you were out, or did you get it while you were incarcerated?
I got it before I was incarcerated, sir.
What grade did you drop out of school in?
10th grade.
Why'd you drop out?
Just running the streets and being wild.
Were drugs and alcohol involved in that, or what?
No, sir.
So have you ever had a drug or alcohol problem?
No, sir.
Never done any drugs or alcohol?
I've done a little alcohol. Drugs never been my thing.
Have you ever done drugs?
Yes, sir.
Well, tell me about this crime. It's pretty significant. No alcohol and drugs. What was going on? What were you doing? Tell me a little bit about what happened during this time.
I had a gambling problem at that time, sir, and ran out of money and had to get some quick cash.
And that's the way you thought to get quick cash?
Yes, sir. I wasn't doing much thinking at that time.
No drugs or alcohol, you're gambling at the time.
Excuse me?
So you saying you just gambling at the time?
Yes, sir.
And that's just to get a little extra money. That's a pretty significant crime you committed, huh?
Yes, sir.
I mean, what are your thoughts about that? All these years you've had to reflect.
I'm sorry that I'd ever done that, and like I said, since I've been incarcerated, I've stopped gambling, and I've noticed that's been my complete problem most of my life.
Have you been gambling since you've been incarcerated?
I gambled for the first 3 years that I was incarcerated, and like I said, once I reflected and seen that that's where all my problems were coming from. That's where all my altercations and everything else came from.
So what have you been? You've been down a long time. What have you been doing since you've been incarcerated? What kind of programs you've been taking? What kind of classes? What have you been doing to help yourself?
I've done the 100 hours. I've done anger management. I've done substance abuse, and I've mostly done work. I was a painter. I worked in for the paint metal fab at Angola for over 5 years. And then I was a dorm orderly also after that before I moved here. And I've always kept a job. I've worked the whole time I've been incarcerated.
So you've always worked. Have you thinking for a change, living in balance, any of those type classes?
Yes, sir.
Which ones have you taken? Taken both of them?
Yes, sir.
What'd you get out of them? What'd you learn? What'd you learn about yourself, about your crime, about what your plans are, what your triggers are?
What my triggers are? Well, I've learned that I can't gamble. That is a no-no for me, and it causes problems every time I do. Like I said, this is where all my problems seem to stem from. I learned a lot in anger management, also how to walk away for a change. I've never even thought of that before. Everything was always a confrontation with me. If someone got loud with me, then it's a confrontation. I've learned, to walk away. Like I said, I've been incarcerated for 20 years. I haven't had one single fight since I've been here.
You've had, what, about 12 write-ups? Is that right? Is that what I'm seeing?
I don't believe I had 12 write-ups at all.
You don't think you had 12 write-ups?
13.
13, yeah, you're right. You had 13. Since you've been there.
Okay, those are pretty minor. I'm pretty sure, huh? 'Cause,
Well, I mean, they're write-ups. I'm just saying, you say you don't think you had 12. I'm saying you had 13 write-ups since you've been there. You know, not bad, I guess, for 20 years. Your last one was in 2018, according to this, a disobedience, right?
yes.
So what's your plans? What are you gonna do? Where are you gonna go? What you gonna do? What's your plans?
Okay. My plans are to stay live with my brother, who's a retired veteran, been deployed 5 times. He has a few medical problems, and we have a company called Meridian Enterprises. You know, we're doing property preservation. That's what my plans are to be. First of all, I'm gonna be a medical assistant for him, and do that on the side.
Okay. Warren, you have any input for us?
So Norris has been at DCI since 2017. The only write-ups he's had at DCI were the 2 Rule 4s, which are the disobedience. Those are low court write-ups. As far as programming, he's completed pre-release, anger management, and living in balance. I don't see where he's completed thinking for a change, though.
About 100 years.
Right. I didn't see it either.
That's all part of the 100 hours.
No, it's a separate class.
It's another class.
The
All
thinking
right.
for a change is a separate class from 100 hours.
There it is.
pre-release.
All right, would you answer Mr. Marabella's questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Palms, you indicated that you don't have a drinking or a drug problem. Is that right?
I said I
It's
don't
gambling?
have a drug problem. I did a little drinking, and gambling is my biggest problem.
Okay. Well, tell me about your drinking. I mean, you've had several DWIs. Tell me about your drinking.
Well, like I said, I tend to get tipsy every now and then, you know. But like I said, I really didn't see drinking as a problem, but we usually never do, you know. And
Well, let me ask you. Now that you've been in prison, now that you've taken some programs, are you an alcoholic?
yes, I believe I will always be an alcoholic. So.
Okay, well, I mean, so that's a pretty serious thing. Okay,
Yes,
so
sir.
you got a substance abuse addiction in addition to your gambling addiction.
Yes, sir.
Well, tell me a little bit about, I'm looking at your record. You've had 18 arrests, a number of domestic violence, a lot of violence in your life. Why all that violence?
That's like I said, you know, that's always been my way to cope with things. You know, I've never
Well,
learned.
what, beating up people? I don't understand. What do you mean?
Yes, sir.
What's
Well,
been
I
your
mean,
way of coping?
Anytime I have an altercation and it gets out of hand, that's the first thing I always end up doing is putting my hands on someone.
Well, what causes all of that? Do you know?
No, I don't. It's just a reaction.
So you haven't taken any kind of programs to help you with that issue?
Yes, sir. I
Well,
took the anger-
what have you learned about that then?
I've learned how to walk away. I've learned how to actually have a conversation without having to scream and holler at people. And I actually learned how to listen and actually hear someone else's point of view.
I mean, I'm looking at least 4, 5, 6 assault, domestic violence charges. Have you taken any sort of victim awareness programs?
I took the 100 hours and in Angola, all those classes were in the same genre.
All right. Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Right. Now we'll hear from Mr. Robert Palms.
Hello.
Hey, go ahead, Mr. Palms.
All right. First, I'd like to thank the parole board for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Robert Palms. I'm the younger brother of Norris Palms by about 2.5 years. I'm a 30-year veteran of the armed forces. I've deployed to combat on 5 separate occasions, and right now I'm a disabled veteran. Norris Palms has been pretty much my rock for that entire time that I've been in the military. I've confided in him. While in combat, had wrote letters to him, and he wrote back to kind of keep me motivated so that I can kind of deal with some of the stressors that I had there. It is my desire that my brother can come home and be my caretaker. I'm a divorcee, so I live alone. I do have a caretaker at this time, but I'm only allowed to have a caretaker for 16 hours a day. I also own a company called Meridian Enterprises that I can't manage due to my mobility issues. So I definitely need him, where he can go out on site and make sure that, we're doing the board ups, the clean outs, and yard maintenance and things of that nature. So I do have a home. I've owned my home for the last 15 years here in Westlake. So he does have a place to stay. I'm definitely a stable person. And I definitely think that not only can I help him, but he can definitely help me. One of the key things is, again, having someone here with me 24/7 just helps me, in preparing food. Whenever I have needs as far as the restroom or things of that nature, it's always good to have a male. Right now, my caregiver is a female, and I'm about 230, 235 pounds. And sometimes it's a little challenging for her to help me in certain situations. So I definitely think that.
You went on mute. You went on mute for a second. We were hearing you fine, but I can't hear you now. All right, I couldn't hear the very end there, Mr. Palms, but
You
thank you. Now I can hear you again. Okay.
Okay.
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead and wrap up. Yes, sir.
All right. So I definitely think he's been rehabilitated. He's told me about the remorse and how, he really regrets the actions of his past, and how that, he wants to do better and be a better person, and give back to the community. So
All right.
we definitely have a strong support group here, both family and friends, that can put him in a positive environment and, keep him on the straight and narrow. So I really appreciate you guys giving me some time to speak. And I appreciate you guys being attentive to what I had to say. And like I say, I hope you guys, make a positive decision for him.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for your comment. Thank you for your service, sir. Thank you so much. We appreciate your service. Now we're here from Mr. James Harris.
Yes, I'm James Harris,
Okay.
and we want to thank this honorable parole board for giving us an opportunity to speak on Mr. Norris' behalf. Are you hearing me?
I am. I can hear you fine.
Okay, good. Okay, I'm an honorably discharged Air Force veteran, married to Andre's, and I'm saying Andre, we usually refer to him by middle name. I am also his uncle, but I'm married to Norris's biological aunt, been married to her for some 46 years. I'm also a retired automotive technician, and I've been in the gospel ministry for over 40 years. I currently pastor Evergreen Missionary Baptist Church in DeQuincy, Louisiana, where Norris is a member. He united with the Evergreen Missionary Baptist Church prior to being incarcerated, was baptized and was an active member, doing Bible study, and also active in our men's ministry. And I want to speak on his behalf. He's I see Norris as a good person. I've been in communication with him. I'm certain that he's rehabilitated himself. He's surrounded by a very good support team. both his family and his friends, and also by his church membership, which is looking forward to him returning to us. And he will certainly be involved in our men's ministry, where they have a very good accountability and responsibility program. So we're looking forward to him being released and coming back. And I do believe that he would be an asset to the community. I think he's ready now to lead a positive and a productive life in society and take his proper place in society.
All right.
Proud to.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for your comments. Thank you for your service as well. Now we'll hear from Mr. Prejean or Mr. Turner, whichever would like to speak first.
Sure, I'll speak first. My name is John Turner. I work as an assistant district attorney at the Calcasieu Parish District Attorney's Office. We oppose Mr. Palms' release as he committed 4 armed robberies in our community, which have left deep emotional wounds throughout members of our community. I guess until today, today was the first day we've ever heard him accept any kind of responsibility and in a very one sentence say he was sorry for the acts that he committed. Even as close to 2 years ago, he was saying that another individual had actually committed all 4 of these armed robberies. So from our stance, he's never accepted personal responsibility for his own actions or how those actions affected the victims. At trial, 10 people identified Mr. Palms, and yet he still denied them the satisfaction of apologizing or showing any remorse for his actions or how those actions have affected them over the long time. I recently spoke with multiple victims, including Ms. Shana, who's here next to me. Some of them wanted to be here but weren't allowed to be here, but a common theme was the emotional damage that he inflicted on them. And so while he may not have physically injured the victims through these acts, but he did absolutely take some of their lives away as he committed those armed robberies. Basically, our office just believes that a release would be inappropriate. He was sentenced to 49.5 years for 4 armed robberies as a second habitual offender. Our office feels that that's a just outcome based on the circumstances, and therefore, for those reasons, we would oppose the release. And now I'll let you speak with Ms. Shana.
Okay. All right. Go ahead and make your comment. Thank you.
Norris Palm put a Glock to my temple and threatened to kill me exactly 7 days after my 35th birthday. That day, my husband could have become a widow. My 3 small children could have been forced to grow up without their mom. And me, I have never even gotten a speeding ticket in my life, much less committed a crime. What gave you the right, Norris, to put a Glock to my head and threaten to kill me repeatedly, scream at me that you were going to blow off my head?
Speak to the board, Ms. Prejean, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. What gave him the ability to take away my right to practice pharmacy, to cause me to have PTSD, suffer anxiety, and fear? Nothing gave him that right that day. Life is about choices, and Norris made the choice that day on August. It was a very bad choice, and it has lasted many of us a lifetime. That choice took away his freedom to do the freedom to be out in the public. And he has lied and refused to take responsibility for that action. He was 34. He wasn't a kid when he made that decision. No one put a Glock to his head and forced him to commit that armed robbery over and over and over again. He decided that. Not one time has he ever looked remorseful or acted contrite or attempted to apologize to us. We asked through his attorney, several of us did, if we could talk to him and see if he wanted to be forgiven for that, so that we could possibly get past this traumatic event. But no, he never wanted that possibility. Just like this parole hearing, it's always been what Norris wants. I do not feel sorry for him. He was blessed with a very loving family that cared for him, and he just spit in their faces and lied to them, just like he did us, and said that we were wrong, that he did not do this. As for me, I have been in the courtroom with him several times, and all he did is looked at me with hatred and contempt. Like if he could get his hands on me, he would kill me. He was sentenced for 49 and a half years for the choices that he made. I'm so tired of being re-victimized by him. 2 years ago, we had to go to court again, and it was the same thing. I don't feel like he deserves early release. I haven't gotten any early release for the trauma that I've suffered from him. I never committed a crime that day. I went to work, I did my job, I did what I was supposed to do. I was supporting my family, and I just don't feel like that's what he deserves. I looked up what parole meant. Parole is a privilege, it says, for a prisoner that's deemed fit to re-interact with society. It's a promise that a prisoner gives to the parole board to avoid criminals, drug dealers, not possess firearms, a Glock, not to commit new crimes, refrain from drug use. Norris was sentenced under the repeat offender guidelines. And at that time, if my memory is correct, he was on parole when he committed this crime. That means he had been before a parole board, made these promises to people just like you all, but unfortunately, he did not keep that promise. Therefore, this also shows he's not trustworthy. So I don't know why y'all would be willing to accept his word today that he's going to keep the promises. I don't know that 20 years in prison has made him trustworthy, or that you can take his actions today. This is the only time he's ever apologized or even admitted that he committed these crimes. The one thing he has learned maybe in prison is that next time he won't leave a witness
Yes, ma'am.
to go to court. That's my fear.
Okay, yes,
And
ma'am.
my other greatest fear is that I will see him on the streets of Westlake.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your comment. Thank you so much for your comment. Okay, now we'll hear from Mr. Palms, and we'll let Ms. Madison wrap up at the end, if that's okay with you. Okay, Mr. Palms, would you like to make a statement on your behalf?
Yes, I would. And like, yes, sir, I would.
Go ahead and speak to the board. Yes, yes, sir.
First of all and foremost, I apologize to the victims and their families. I know what I've done was wrong. And this is the worst choice I've ever made in my life. And I've lived with it for 20 years and thought about it for 20 years now. I've been away from my family. I have a daughter that is now 25 years old. I left her at 5 years old. You don't think I've dealt with this? Yes, I admit I've done wrong, and I am sorry. And all I ask is please accept my apology, and I humbly ask that you forgive.
All right, Miss Madison.
Good morning, you all. First, thank you all for giving us an opportunity to speak. I want to, and I'll be brief because a lot of the things I was going to address, you've already addressed with Mr. Palms, and his brother has addressed them as well. But an important factor to consider is age. 20 years has passed. Mr. Palms has been incarcerated for 20 years. He served that much of a 49.5-year sentence. He's 57 years old now. During those 20 years, he's taken the necessary steps to better himself and to ensure that he's a productive member of society if or when he resumes life outside of prison. He's taken several courses and programs. Some of those he discussed with you all. Something that he did not discuss was that, he was over the 40 and over basketball program when he was in Angola. He assisted other inmates in learning how to read. He completed the prison rehabilitation, integrity, discipline, and education program. So those are important things to consider. He's certainly shown that he wants to better himself and become a productive member of society. He's realized his wrongdoing and is very remorseful. and ashamed of his actions. And Mr. Turner and Ms. Prejean mentioned court proceedings in which our office represented Mr. Palms as early as 2 years ago. He exercised his constitutional right to file for post-conviction relief. We addressed issues with evidence in that case, as he has a constitutional right to do. He simply exercised that. He does desire to become a better person, and in my opinion, he's done just that. He's made plans for life outside of prison, which is also very important. You've heard about those plans from Mr. Palms and also his brother. It's very clear that he has the support of family. His mother, his brother, his daughter. He now has a 5-year-old granddaughter. He has a loving family that intends to ensure that he does not repeat the same mistakes. So as I mentioned, he's 57 years old now. I think the chances of him reoffending are very low. His only goal is to become a productive member of society. He's a different person than the one that committed the offenses for which he was convicted and sentenced. The only question I think that remains now is, will his life be thrown away, or does he get another chance to prove himself? I think that rehabilitation is a goal of punishment that cannot be served if a defendant can only look forward to nothing beyond imprisonment. An important factor to consider is his willingness to accept responsibilities for his actions. He's done that today. I think he's started down a corrective path by first acknowledging his wrongdoing and a willingness to accept responsibility. So I think that he is a good candidate for parole. I think the chances of him reoffending are very low. So we do respectfully request that Mr. Palms be granted parole.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your comment. All right, is the panel prepared to vote? I'll vote first. Mr. Norris, I had your case. I read through it intently, all the information that was in there. I listened to you this morning. You listened to the victims, listened to your supporters. You have a lot going for you. You do have a lot of family support. You have a lot of good things going. You're taking a lot of good classes. You've done a lot of things. I mean, my concern is, again, I don't think you're quite there. I think that, for me, I'd like to see you take it for a change. I'd like to think you take some victim awareness. Take more accountability of understand. You maybe a little more understanding of the crime, the nature of the crime, and how it's affected everybody. But I think again, take those classes, and so maybe for me it would be different next time you apply. But for today, my vote is to deny. I think you need to take victim awareness, thinking for a change. You have law enforcement opposition. You have victim opposition. Mr. Marabella.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Palms, I've listened very intently to what you had to say here today. And to be kind, I think you've really downplayed who you are and what you've done. You answered Mr. Kelsey's questions early on saying, I didn't have a drink and a drug problem. I was gambling. And then we find out you got a significant drinking problem. You indicated and you suggested, I don't have very much of a criminal record, and you've got 18 arrests with 7 or 8 arrests for violence. I haven't seen, you have taken some courses and you've done some positive things, but I have not seen any significant substance abuse progress that you've made. You conceded that you were an alcoholic. I mean, I don't think you would have said that or admitted that, but for the fact that we pointed out your record to you. I'm concerned about your honesty. I'm concerned about, I do believe that you're moving in the right direction, but I do think that Mr. Kelsey is on the right track. Thinking for a change, MRT, things like that, that'll allow you to understand who you are, what you've done, and how you can change. And you also need substance abuse classes and programs. You need to deal with your alcoholism. I mean, you've got 3 and 4 domestic violence things. You say, that's what I do when I get kind of crazy. Well, you need to address those things. Those are all part and parcel of rehabilitation. This isn't about punishment. This is about rehabilitation. And you're moving in the right direction, but you're moving slowly. I hope that you can pick up some good classes and learn some more things about yourself. But today, my vote is to deny as well. So good luck to you.
Ms. Renatza?
Mr. Palms, I do agree with my colleagues. I don't believe you were altogether forthcoming today during our interview. I agree that you need classes like thinking for a change in substance abuse particularly. So my vote today for those reasons is to deny, and I encourage you to reapply for another hearing after you complete those programs. Good luck to you, sir.
All right, you have 3 votes to deny your parole today. Your parole's been denied. Good luck.
Wow, I agree with Mr. Mirabella. I mean, he was downplaying everything, and it's interesting that we see a lot of oftentimes where they come up and they say they didn't have any problem, no drinking problem, no narcotic problem, and I don't really understand that either. They're saying that because they haven't taken the substance abuse programs and they know they'll get denied, or they think it makes them look better, but it doesn't make you look better if you're completely sober. If you're doing these violent robberies because you're saying that it's in this case, to fund the gambling problem, it doesn't make you look better. When you don't, it's easier to understand how people do it when they're feeding a drug habit, in my opinion. But and thank you, Richard, for sharing this. This details the string of crimes, and it goes through it, from every date for the 5 different crimes that he was convicted of. June 28th, that day a man entered a store and asked about Pepto-Bismol, to which he began to respond. The next thing she knew, the man was behind the counter with his arm around her and a gun to her head. And these are such, as the survivor, the victim pointed out, a Glock to your head. These things can't be underemphasizing what kind of drama that does to you and how unnecessary that violence is. The man dragged her into the back of the office where her boss was sitting at the desk. The assailant demanded all the big bills, and she gave him $250. Gilroy gave him the money in his pocket. The assailant then put her in the bathroom and brought her to the front of the store where he demanded money from the register, eventually opened the register and gave the money inside. He then put her in the bathroom and told her and Gilroy that someone was watching the building and killed them if they came out. After the assailant left, a lady entered the store. Neighbor heard the lady come from the bathroom and they called the police. And then they talk about how they identified him, what they said he looked at. Then you go to July 18th, 2000. So this is June 28th. So this is just 2 days later. They say worked at Instacash. Approximately 5:30 p.m., a man came into the front door of the business, which was always locked, as she instructed him to use the back door. Peter did not immediately let the man in, but did inform him what was required for a loan. The man asked if he would be getting cash right away. Responded. The man grabbed her arm, forced his way into the building, pulled out a gun, and asked her to show him where the money was located. She subsequently pushed the panic button and called her employer. Police arrived and they described and then they talk about even here of the court case. Then you go to July 26th. So this was 26 days later. And they talk about when he came in between 11:30 a.m. and 12 p.m. She waited for a customer. This is like broad daylight stuff. A young man then walked in, bent down to finish work created by a previous customer, testified the next thing she knew, the man was behind the counter right next to her with a gun demanding money. And it seems he's attacking all female victims. On August 9, 2000, she was presented with a photographic lineup. So then we have the next crime, 30-Way Pharmacy, August 8th, 2000. Man came to the store, asked for the manager. When she turned to the assailant beside her with the gun, the assailant then spoke with the manager. He subsequently brought Chapman and the two girls into the office where he held the gun to their heads. At least he never fired the trigger, you know? You gotta say it's... It's there's a lot here. I'll put the link in the description, but as you can see, the picture he tried to frame of himself and the reality of the situation were two different stories, and you know, Mr. Marabella pointed that out quite succinctly. And you don't want to go into a parole hearing kind of completely lying and with a whole different attitude or viewpoint of what it is that you're going through, and that's just what happened in this case. And plus, he had all of those other, 18 arrests, including DV. Yeah. But there you have it. And with that, I'll let you go.
Offender offenses: possession with intent to distribute cocaine, habitual offender, and possession of cocaine. Sentencing dates: July 16, 2003 and January 17, 2020. Sentenced to 30 years DOC and 2 years DOC. Parole date is discretion of the board. Good time is not eligible. Full term is September 4th, 2026. Is this information correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Marabella.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wells, my name is Tony Marabella. Your case was assigned to me. I'm going to ask you the questions first, okay?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you good.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to change this screen so I can get a little better shot at you. There you go. Mr. Wells, how old are you, sir?
On 47, just made 47 on the 19th.
Okay. And how long have you been in prison this time?
2 years, exactly. 2 years and 1 day.
Tell me what happened that caused you to come back to prison.
What happened was me I had attachment with my girlfriend that she had called the people about disturbed peace. In the process of that, I got pulled over on the interstate coming from redoing the house for my mama, for my mama, and they found cocaine in the car, 1 bag of cocaine in the car. And by me being on parole, they were gonna give me the program or a start not a start program. It's a court thing they do for a program, but they had to talk to the parole people. But my lawyer didn't have time enough.
Drug court?
Yeah, drug court. That's the name.
So they were going to try to put you in drug court?
Yes. Yes, sir.
And what happened? You couldn't get in?
Yeah, the COVID had hit and they couldn't talk to nobody at the parole police, and it was a blah, blah, blah. So what I did was just went ahead and tied off for the 2 years, was 8 months. I was down already like 7 months, but I thought I was going to get good time on the parole thing. But they see I wasn't eligible for good time on parole, which would have put me out at 8 months. So here I am now in front of y'all, you know.
So how much time you got left now?
4 years.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about your drug use. When did you start using drugs?
I started using drugs when I was younger, and I was doing good when you first granted me parole.
Well, what's younger? Let's start from the beginning. We'll jump to, you can tell me your story, but first let's talk about how old you were when you started.
Like 15, 16, started out smoking.
What'd you start with?
Smoking weed with my friends.
All right. And you progressed to what?
To cocaine.
And when did you start using cocaine?
When I was like 19.
Okay. And how often were you using cocaine?
Every now and then. It wasn't good. It was every now and then.
But when did you get addicted to cocaine?
And really when I was 19. When I was 19.
And how often were you using it?
It was like a regular basis. It It wasn't here and there, it was on a regular basis, like every day.
What else besides cocaine did you use?
Pills, I was doing pills and drinking.
What kind of pills?
The X pill, they would call them X pills at the time.
And what's your main drug of choice? Cocaine?
Yeah, that's what it was.
So tell me, when you got arrested and went back to prison for the cocaine and they found a bag of cocaine in your car, was that for your own personal use or were you selling it? What were you doing with it?
It was, I had somebody in the car with me. It was for them, but by me being the owner of the car, because I have a dealership, they took me to jail. But the person tried to come to court with the affidavits and signed, but the judge see that they got me in there and I got a record for it, so that's who we gonna convict.
When was the last time you used cocaine?
Prior to that time, like about, I say like 3 years, 3.5 years before that.
Are you a cocaine addict?
Yeah, I was.
So you think you're cured?
Yeah, cause I was doing good out there. Just I'm a set for the record. You know, as I went to doing good with my business and doing stuff in the community, a lot of problems come about to when you don't have nobody to talk to. And I was just, just feeling lonely. Sometimes when you feel lonely, I was going to AA and ND meetings on Jeff Davis. And I had stopped for a while because they had a little confusion going on there. But in actuality, I was doing good. But sometimes when you get to downtime, it just had me, I had relapsed and had used.
What kind of programs have you taken in prison? What's the best program that you've taken since you've been in prison?
Taking the STAR program now. Teacher wrote that recommendation. AANA, the substance abuse. I have some from Prison Enterprise. I got anger management.
Tell me about the STAR program. How'd you get in the STAR program?
I was drafted in the STAR program. They selected me in the STAR program because of a habit I had.
What?
Because I was a drug, by me having drugs on my rap sheet, and I was a drug offender, and I inquired about it. So they did the.
Well, tell me what your serious drugs were. What do you consider yourself to be addicted to? Is cocaine your big issue?
Yeah, it was pills, and they say drinking was a main source. I know they say opium, but they see with pills and the drinking is a major factor with it too.
So tell me what you learned in the STAR program.
I learned a lot. It's the books is good, and it teaches you. They go around and tell you about your relapse. It teaches you about how to be more productive citizen out there in society. It teaches you how to have a supporter. Like with the AANA meeting in the class, you have to have a supporter, a person that you could call at any time when you're feeling down, that could come to you at any time. They, like a parent or a friend or sponsor, they call it. It's a sponsor that they call it. Yeah.
Tell me what your triggers are.
My triggers are, like I said before, my downtime, and sometimes you get upset. I really didn't have nobody to talk to. Or going to parties. Parties be a trigger, weddings be a trigger. And places that really have alcohol and drugs that are in the facility.
Now, I'm looking at your record.
Okay.
You've had 17 arrests, drugs. You've had many charges that were no billed. A lot of them, many of them were for violence. Some of them were no bills. Some of them we can't find the records for. Tell me how you've changed and you're not that same person. I mean, your supervision history is poor. You've been on supervision twice. You've been revoked both times. So tell me what's changed now about you that if we vote to let you out, you won't be coming back.
What changed about me now? What changed about me now? I think I'm a fit for society, a productive person. I did a lot of stuff for the community, which I had my people to fax to the parole board. I've been an active member in my community. I got some from Marlon Gusman. I did something for Southern University. I sponsored an event for the police, for the students. I did a few things with Norris Henderson, as far as with the voting stuff. I'm active member with him. I did something with Lucky Johnson, who's a movie star. We feed the homeless people, the elderly people, and a lot of other things. I was active in the community. And what I did now, I realized where I went wrong at, and it's the people that I had in my surroundings. I had a lot of bad people in my surroundings that was out for just what they could get from me at the time, which had me feeling down that, you know, every time I look around, I'm being a sponsor for somebody and never have nobody worry about what my feelings is and what my needs is. You know, if y'all give me a chance of being out the road, me coming back in here will never happen again. I have like a year and a half left without being, without getting in trouble, and I'll be flat off the road.
Mr. Wells, I see on your record that you were on a waiting list for Drug Dealers Anonymous, Recovering from Loss of Life, Substance Abuse Education, Cage Your Rage, Living in Balance. You still on a waiting list for them?
Yeah, but the STAR program, it really covers all those sections, and I go to that class every day with Miss Lotz.
Now, you were evaluated. We have tests that kind of check you out. We evaluate you, and it was determined that you have some significant substance abuse needs. They suggested you do Living in Balance to celebrate recovery. You have some concerns about antisocial thinking. They suggested you do Cage and Rage and Victim Awareness. Have you taken any of those programs?
Yes, Cage and Rage. I have a certificate. They faxed it to. I completed it yesterday, and they faxed it to you.
Have you completed your 100 hours of pre-release?
Yes, they didn't know on the last. They said I didn't need this because I was already on parole.
Your risk for reoffending is moderate, which is very concerning. And your needs are substance abuse evaluation, education, more than not substance abuse education, and some concerns about your anger issues. So tell me how you've addressed those things.
My anger issue?
You seem to be tying everything to the STARS program. And believe me, I believe the STARS program to be a very good program. But the STARS program may or may not involve medication. That medication is for opiates. It is not for cocaine, and that is your drug of choice. So I've got a concern about that. So you tell me what you're going to do to make me sure that you are addressing the needs that you have: substance abuse, antisocial thinking, and education. So tell me how my concern and my looking at your records tell me, I should vote for you to let you out with all of your history, all of the times you've been revoked. So tell me how you're different today than you were when you came back to prison.
How I'm different from when I came to prison. I learned from my mistakes that a lot of things that I did was wrong, and a lot of problems I put on other people, which I'm at fault for the problems that land me in the institution. As for the anger management, I took anger management class and then learned to respect others and, and control my anger. Sometimes you have to take time out to think about what you're doing and understand what you're doing. And if you look at it, I'm not really an aggressive person, with my records that say that I am, but I don't.
A record sometimes define us.
Right. And you can look at the record when you see it had 5 years, and a lot of cases that like one of the things on my jacket, it was just a 5-year sentence, is being with friends. I had a lot of friends that wasn't good for me. But you could say list me as a follower. And I had a lot of friends that I was following, and I called them. But if for the change man of the day, I do if you give me a shot at parole, the things that I did, I wouldn't do again.
Now, you haven't had a write-up since when? Have you had a write-up since you've been in this time?
No, I never had a write. I have a write up 2 years since I've been incarcerated.
Tell me what your plan is. Tell me about your businesses. I've seen in your records that you've got several businesses, you've got several licenses. So tell me what you're going to be doing when you get out.
The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go find an AA in the clinic that I could attend. The second thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go get my driver's license free. The third thing, I'm going to get my business license free because I have a lot of clients, a lot of people I deal with my auction license. I gotta go get that free. I gotta get, and once I do that, I'm finish helping my mama with her house because I helped her buy a house in Mississippi. So I'm gonna finish helping her doing that. And before I come to jail, I was gonna go to school for paint. I want to learn how to paint because I had a problem with
Let's
paint.
go. You answered my question, perhaps. My question to you is, what businesses? You indicate you've got several businesses. You've got all sorts of licenses. Tell me what kind of work you're going to do when you get out.
Auction calls.
Are you going to go back to this? Is that what you were doing before?
Yeah, I'm going back to getting calls from the auction, open the car lot. Before I come to jail, I had just opened up, it was a car wash in the car lot. So what I'm going back to do, I gotta start all over again because a lot of people stole off.
How long have you been doing that kind of work?
It's 2014. When you let me out, when I left 2012, I got out. 2014, I got my license. It's from there on, I was doing good with the car, making a lot of money. And what I did was I was branching out right before I came here, and I was about to open a car wash / car lot. And I wound up coming here the day that I came. Monday morning, I had to go to City Hall and get all my license to open it up. And I was gonna have that open. But
Gordon, what can you tell us about Mr. Wells?
He just came in February, so I just kind of got to know him a little bit during my interview process of this. As you can tell, he's a salesman. I can tell you that. He talks about his businesses and different things like that. He's in the STAR program. He doesn't give us any trouble. I think he works in a kitchen.
Yeah,
he doesn't give us any trouble, and he's, like I said, hadn't been here that long to get a good read on him, but he's done pretty well since he's been here.
Thank you very much, Warden. I appreciate your comments. Mr. Chairman, that's all the questions I have.
And is this when I can interject if y'all want me to wait?
If you want to speak after he gets through speaking, or do you want to speak right now? I have another question on that, then I'll give you a chance.
Okay, I'll let y'all finish.
Okay, Mr. Wells, back in 4/24/12, myself, Ms. Renatus, and Ms. Marcia Yarborough sat on your case, and you were granted. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And I heard you telling Mr. Maribel about all the good things, but let me tell you something. You were granted in 12, and you're right back again. You got over 20 arrests. I mean, how many chances do you need? You was the third offender then.
Yeah, when I went home in 12, when y'all granted me the parole in 12, it was, I went home. It took a year for me to get everything settled. I was out there 8 years before I really got caught up on this. Otherwise than that, I had no arrest. I never been pulled over for a traffic ticket, or nothing like that. I've never been implicated in any kind of violence. What I did was I was more effective to my community than I was a burden to my community. I helped a lot of youngsters out that was in the neighborhood, and the police had wrote a record up on this stuff of me helping people in the community, older, younger. I was a great asset to the community. Norris Henderson, I helped him with the vote program. I talked to him all the time and help him out with different things. I was like the go-to man. Right now, I feel ashamed of myself being here, how good I was doing out there in society, and then got caught up with the wrong person in the cult, and it affect me right now. And I know the situation is bad on me, but if you give me another chance, this here would never be. I would never have to come back in front of the parole board. I really wasn't expecting.
Let me tell you something. I sat on your panel last time. I heard the same words. I'll never come back. We hear it every day. And you're right back. How long you been in here on this charge?
I've been 2 years, and I was out there 8 years, 7.5 years before I came back incarcerated.
Well, I know, but I'm asking you, how long have you been incarcerated since you've been back on this charge?
2 years. 2 years and 1 day.
All right. 2 years and 1 day. You've been incarcerated.
Yes.
I don't know what it's going to take, but I've got some issues with it here, just looking at it because of some of the things that we did. At this time, no other questions. I would like for with the attorney, anything you'd like to say on this case?
Yes, it's time for me. Thank you. We've, as Mr. Wells has discussed, he's obviously completed multiple programs. I could see that one of the concerns seems to be a substance abuse issue. Would it be possible, if we could get him into a drug court type program or something like that, once he got out, would that be something that y'all would consider?
Well, he hadn't done very well since he got out on different things. I can tell you. I know he was out for a little while and he stayed straight.
Mr. Bradley,
Yes,
Alvin Roche, I would not consider that. Your client needs substance abuse before he's released.
I believe he's been in Tirell, am I incorrect that you have taken some of those classes as well?
Yes.
Substance abuse treatment? Yes, sir.
Yes. Two different classes.
Yes.
We're not talking classes, we're talking substance abuse treatment.
Yes,
Like
The STAR is for opiates. As Mr. Marabella pointed out, his drug of choice is cocaine. STAR program does not affect cocaine.
So let me ask you, well, that's what I'm a big fan of the specialty courts in general, and so would that be something you would consider allowing?
Mr. Bradley, we have no authority to put him in a drug court. That's the district attorney and the judges. We can't
understand.
do that.
I understand, but I mean, if we're granted, I can set something like that up. I know obviously it would have to go through the court system and all that, but I believe it's possible. I think we can get it worked out if y'all would consider it.
You're gonna get him a new charge?
I'm sorry?
You're gonna get him a new charge? The only way to get into drug court is a new felony charge.
No, that's not necessarily true. We can amend the previous charge.
I ran a drug court for 14 years. He ain't getting into drug court on these charges that he's been in prison on, and you know it and I know it.
I don't necessarily think that's true, but I don't want to argue. I think it's possible. I also think there's options for substance abuse treatment outside of prison. But like
that's
I said,
possible. That's a truism.
But the last thing I would say is that after doing this for a long time, that there's guys that you really like and all that kind of stuff. He's one of those. His attitude's terrific. Everybody at the office really likes him. He seems like he's got a good support system together. He seems like he's very sharp, and he's got a plan of what he's going to do when he gets out. It seems like his real demons, as you know, are the drugs. And I do a lot of this, so I'm very creative about facilities and all that kind of stuff. So if that's something you would consider, I don't mind doing all the legwork on it.
Okay. Miss Leah, was Miss Bryant and them was supposed to speak? I couldn't see if it was. Okay, Miss Bryant, are you anything I'd like to say on his behalf?
Yes, there is. My name is Natasha Bryan. I'm Terrell's first cousin. His mother and my mother are sisters. And I want to talk about Tirell, the person, not Tirell, the rap sheet that you guys have there. I know that's two different persons when you look at it. You're looking at it from one perspective and we're looking at it from another as a family member. Tirell has made some wrong choices. Tirell has chosen some bad friends. Tirell has chosen friends in his younger years that were not acceptable to his family. He has friends that were not acceptable to society. But Tirell, the person that we know, is not the same person that you know. We have all made some bad choices in life, and not that they're detrimental to our freedom in some cases. Tirell and I were raised by the very same family. He has no brothers. He has no sisters. He is his mother's only child. And as his first cousin, we were, in a sense, we were sisters and brothers. So we were raised in the same home with our mothers and our grandparents, and we were afforded the very same opportunities. We were raised in a home with parents. We were raised in a home with belief in religion and faith. We were raised in a home with values. And he said that he was taught these things in a class most recently about how to be a productive citizen. But long before that class he attended, we were taught that in our home as kids. Whereas Tirell went in one direction. He went in one direction with his friends because I'm a girl, he's a boy. I did not play with him the way he wanted to be played with, and we didn't have the same interests. I went off to college and made my own family. I became a school teacher and a productive citizen today. So the reward of what my family has done is proof in who I am today. And Tirell is also proof of that, because
I think she froze up, did she?
Yes, ma'am, she froze up. Miss Brown, if you can hear us, she froze up.
The car dealership and a number of other things. So he has the ability and the capabilities to be a very upstanding citizen. He has done that upon his initial release. He came out, and for several years, there was no trouble he got into. We are a close-knit family, and we're on him. And as an adult, we don't have to be, but we want to make sure he's gone to the right places, doing the right thing, and we're involved in his life. We're not disconnected. We're not distant. But at the same time, not in Tirell's head.
Okay, Ms. Wells, if you can hear me, you froze up there.
Opportunities, and we came from a very good background and a very good family, and we never lived in housing projects. We did things that every family do who live in a nice house with a white picket fence and went on vacations. The education opportunities was there. I took advantage of those educational opportunities. His children and my children are all college graduates. It's just that the choices that he made, we cannot account for those choices. But I truly believe in my heart of hearts, he is completely understanding of what he has done. And we all can have a level of, a vice grip is made to hold something. And yes, these drugs had him. And that grip can be released, and he can in turn go back to who he was created by our God to be. And that does not mean that he is a monster. He needs help. And I agree with Mr. Bradley, maybe a rehabilitation program with treatment and the help of his family will see him through where he needs to be. I pray for Tirell the same way I pray for my children every single day. And I trust and believe, God, that this too shall turn around and come to pass and work together for his good, so that he can have his freedom and return back to be a productive member of society and stand in support of his children and his grandchildren, and be the son to the mother that he has, the only son that she has. And he deserves a chance. And I know he has been given more than one chance, but he deserves a chance to prove himself yet again. And I'm asking for your greatest consideration to reconsider allowing him to go to a treatment program. You cannot learn to walk if you don't put shoes on someone's feet and allow them to stand forward and walk. So if you would allow him to be entered into a treatment program, I will say right here, right now, that just as I put every commitment into my teaching of 5th grade students, I will put myself behind Tirell to ensure that he is in treatment and doing everything he is supposed to do. There's no need for a friend when you have a sister or a cousin, and I will absolutely ensure that he's doing the right thing, because this needs to come to an end, and we can't continue to do this.
Thank you, Ms. Bryant. Can we now hear from Ms. Dorothy Wells, who's the mother?
Good morning. My name is Dorothy Wells, and I'm Tirell Wells' mother. I work with the Department of Children and Family Services, and Tirell is a very loving, caring son, father, grandfather, and grandson. He's very good with the community. You know, he has done so well since he's been released in 2012. He has gotten his own used car dealership, which is TTT's, which is named after his four girls, Tirell, Tyrion, Tyranika, and Shanice. Tirell has been doing such a wonderful job with his business as far as selling used car sales. He also had a food truck that, you know, he would go out in the public and he would, you know, give food to the public, or he would sell food. He also had his lawn, he had his lawn care service where he was cutting grass. He has been doing such a wonderful job the 7.5 years that he was out. Yes, my son has made some wrong choices, but I do truly believe he has learned from his wrong choices and the people that he would be around. I would talk to him a lot of times and explain to him. Sometimes I see people that he's around, I say, I don't think they're a good choice for you. I can't tell you what to do because you're grown, but in my eyes, it doesn't seem like they're a good choice for you to be around. I said, because you've been doing so good since you came home in 2012. I pray that you all grant him another chance at parole, so that, you know, he can come out and be a good access to the society the way he was. He was, you know, he did the parole thing, and the thing with the kicking it with the cops in Baton Rouge. He got a certificate for that. He did some functions with Marlon Guzman. He's just been out in the community. He also did fundraisers for my little niece for the school kids. You know, he granted her with money to buy these supplies. He helps anyone that he can possibly help that he sees in need. Tirell is a really nice person. He just have made some wrong choices.
Yes.
Okay. At this time, Tirell, anything you'd like to say to the board?
Yes, I'd like to see this. Y'all heard, you guys heard my background, and what I like to see, I did a lot of positive things. I just need a chance to get out there to show y'all that I could be the productive man that I am. You know, I've helped a lot of people. You know, if anybody called me, look, if I can help, I get help to them. I know my jacket might seem like a monster, but a lot of times when you're young, you get stuff that get caught up like that. If my jacket is what it was, I wouldn't even be at this hearing right now. I'd probably be in that golden with a life sentence. But what I'm trying to see is that, you know, I did what I want to do. I didn't go back. I didn't go out there to sell no drugs. I went out there, started cutting grass. I went from there. I went to my food truck, which is a successful food truck. I was about to open a business in the French quarters for cooking, because I love cooking, and I did my call out thing. I try to keep myself occupied with positive things, but I got caught up with a friend on a negative thing. And right now it is affecting me in a harsh manner, to the point where I'm looked at like I'm a negative person to society.
Okay. Thank you very much. Michael, anything to the board?
I believe that's everything.
Okay. At this time, Mr. Marabella, this is his case and he'll be voted.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Wells, I want to tell you that it looks like you've got good support. Your family is behind you. I've read all the letters in support that they've sent to you. I've looked at the certificates that you have received, looked at your businesses, what you want to do. So once you get out, I think you're going to have some support. I have to look, however, at your record. I have to look at you. I have to look at what you've done. You've had 17 arrests. You've got a poor supervision history. you have a moderate risk of reoffending. I look at your needs. I look at what our assessment shows. Our assessment shows you have high needs for substance abuse. You have high needs for mental health sort of things about your thinking. You know, the warden, I think, hit it on the head when he said he didn't know much about you, but you're a salesman, and you are. I mean, you sell yourself. And I don't know if you sold yourself to the STAR program or not. But as Mr. Roche pointed out earlier, the STAR program is for opiates. It is not for cocaine. You indicated that you kind of volunteered, you read about the STAR program and you got in it. I don't know. You may have just sold yourself to there. I've looked at your rap sheet. You've got a lot of drug charges. Every one of them are cocaine. There's nothing besides cocaine on your rap sheet. You tell me today your pills, you took pills and you had some opiates and drinking. They said the STAR program that would work. Well, sounds to me like you figured out how to get in the program. It's a shorter program than what is required. You're on a waiting list. Our assessment has suggested the things that you need, the programs that you need. You haven't taken those programs. My vote today, based upon all of those things, you have law enforcement opposition. My vote today, based upon all those things, is to deny you, but to encourage you to take advantage of the programs that are offered to you. You need long-term substance abuse. Get into a program that can really help you. I'm not suggesting the STAR program didn't help you, but it's not designed. It's designed to keep you off of opiates. And ultimately, perhaps at some point when you are released, the STAR program could be used medically. That medical intervention doesn't work on cocaine. It just works on opioids. So you need to get into the programs that you need to take. So my vote today would be to deny you, Mr. Wells, but I will encourage you to continue to work hard to get where you need to be.
Thank you, Mr. Marabella. Mr. Roche? Unmute your mic. Unmute your mic.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Wells,
Yes, sir.
I urge you to listen to the remarks of Mr. Marabella. I agree with everything Mr. Marabella said. You're not ready. You need additional programs. And for those reasons and all the reasons articulated by Mr. Marabella, our vote is to deny your request.
At this time, I'll be voting today. I'm going to be voting to deny. In 2012, I granted you parole. Just a few years later, you're back before me again. Let me tell you something, get you some long-term substance abuse and right back. Today, you've been denied. Thank you.
Mr. Norris, I believe that is the last case for today. Can we please adjourn at DCI?
Okay, at this time, adjourn is 9:38 a.m. And Warden, I want to thank you for everything, and y'all done a great job.
Thank you. We'll see you. I got one more case tomorrow, so I get to see you again tomorrow.
Look forward to it.
See you later, brother.
Okay, so we're going to fast forward 2 years for his next parole hearing. Thank you, Richard, for setting this up. But before we go and watch this, I just need to vent a little bit or something. One is, man, I hope they don't bring the same attorney back to this hearing, because did he make a mistake? Are you really going to tell Mr. Marabella how the system works? Are you really going to use the words, I've been around a long time? I know how the system works. Mr. Mirabella has been around since the prehistoric times. He is the drug court program judge, and he was. It was funny when the attorney starts saying all these things, and Mr. Mirabella is just like, "That's just not true." And then the attorney keeps going, and Mirabella's like, "Okay, there's some truthisms to that." It was like, I mean, even to the point where the final statement, everyone just ignored him, and it's like, you just cost. There's no way you're gonna get paroled now, buddy. I mean, it was like, how would he know? I guess, but when you see enough of these hearings, and Mr. Mirabella, don't come in there and use the words "I've been around a long time" and start telling him how things work, how even a parole hearing works. We all know that's not how it works. You don't someone gets out of prison and then say, "Oh, we're going to go and order him to a drug court." It's like Mr. Mirabella's like, "Are you going to," what did he say? "Are you going to give him a new charge?" Oh man. And then you have the other hearing where it was his supporters are talking, and we've seen this several times. Something that I've noticed is that sometimes you have supporters that come up and start talking about themselves and how great they are. And you see this sometimes with mothers that go on and on and on, how they've done a great job raising their kid. It's almost like they're taking a personal offense to are they being judged as a mother? And they take the opportunity to almost defend themselves instead of realizing that's not the point. Like, you're here to support them. You're here to describe why it is that, what the parole board wants to hear is that you're not in denial about the crimes that they did. They want to hear that you're not making excuses for them. They want to hear that you're going to be tough when they get out, and that you're going to make sure that they stay in line. You're going to run a tight ship. And it didn't do him any good when she's really just sitting there going on and on and on how successful she is and how great she is and how they've run their home great. And well, I don't know what happened with him. I mean, he just went off the crazy rails. And it's like, why? Well, then why are you telling us this? Why is he going to do better when we release him back to you? Like, it was, and when it kept like freezing and long periods of freezing, and she's still going. She doesn't realize that she's frozen like 10 minutes later, and she's still talking. Rumor has it she's still talking. And I don't mean to say that to be mean. I just thought it was, she's done great. She's, I mean, a fifth grade teacher, if I understand correctly, is a very special person to be a teacher. That I don't know. It's actually interesting. I failed in school really all my life, but my fifth, I remember two teachers that had an impact on my life. And it was a fifth grade teacher. So it really can, one of them was a fifth grade teacher, really, 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 really can make a huge difference. And I commend her for that. Now let's jump into the second hearing. And I haven't seen it yet. So let's see what happens here.
Let me just acknowledge that you have mother has joined us by Zoom, and we'll ask her to speak at the appropriate time. So we'll just dive right in. So, Mr. Wells, you're classified as a third felony offender. You're currently serving a 14-year sentence for, let's see, possession of Schedule II cocaine.
Wow.
Sentenced in January 2020 as a habitual offender for possession with intent to distribute cocaine in Jefferson, and then the controlled dangerous substance in St. Henry, so it's a total of 14 years. Your parole eligibility date is at our discretion. You have a good time date, September 9th, 2025. Full-time date is September 4th, 2026. Does all that sound correct?
Yes, but the current charge for Jefferson Parish, it was in 1996. It was a parole violation from Jefferson Parish.
Right, but you were on, I show an original sentencing date in 2003.
Oh, yeah, it was 1996. I had gave time back in 2003, ma'am.
Okay, and that you were revoked because of the new felony.
Right.
Thanks for clarification.
Yes.
Your case has been assigned to Mrs. Jackson. Would you answer her questions, please?
Okay.
All right. Well, good news. Well, I just want a little bit of clarification from you about your time. You were originally sentenced to 30 years as a habitual offender. Is that correct?
Yes, my first it gave me 60 years on the 4982. That the multiple, then I gave that back and got 30 years in 2003 on the 15529 per one is the habitual offender. This charge been existing since 30 years for 8 grams of cocaine. And yeah.
Slow down.
Okay.
You originally got 60 years. That was vacated and you were resentenced to 30 years in 2010.
Oh,
2003. So on this 30 years, how much time have you actually incarcerated?
Of 20 some years total. 16 released in 2012 and then 3 years right now.
So you've been in 3 on the balance of the 30-year sentence. Correct?
Yeah, they broke it down in half.
I understand.
Okay.
You got out, you had served a substantial amount of time, you got out on parole, and you got revoked. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And what charge revoked you?
Possession of cocaine.
Because you just said,
Yes.
you said, yes, you didn't tell us what it was. So obviously you had a substance abuse problem.
Yes, ma'am.
So after serving all the time you served in prison, why do you think you went back to using drugs?
It was triggers, and I never had received professional help until I got the STAR program here. I'm enrolled in the STAR program. I just graduated. I did 13 months in STAR program, and throughout that
Stop talking, slow down. Tell us about the STAR program. What did you find helpful about it?
It treats you about your triggers and your cravings, and you never get rid of a drug problem. But it also teaches about being in certain situations where your drug problem can be a trigger for you, and being caring and sharing, and in going back to bad company and being influenced.
So what did they teach you about how to protect yourself from your triggers?
How to protect yourself from triggers, not be in the same environment that you was in before, not let nobody influence you, going to parties and drinking and clubs and stuff like that. And just basically they got a site that our teacher showed us about, it's called the Pink Cloud, to where you feel as though you gonna relapse or anything like that, you get in contact with them and they show you where your local center which you can find help at.
When did you complete the STAR program?
But last week they had added an additional book.
Okay, and are you in a relapse prevention program now?
Yeah, when they sent me back last time, they told me to get living in balance and pre-release. And I'm also participating in Drug Dealer Anonymous, and I have like a 2 weeks left on that.
What is quitting heroin?
What is quitting heroin?
Huh?
Yeah, the heroin is a addiction, and the quitting heroin is addiction that you have to prevent. And quitting heroin, because I'm kind of nervous, Miss Bonnie.
I
Yeah.
never heard of quitting heroin, so I'm just trying to find
No,
out.
it's we have a book that we study about quitting heroin, but it also reminds you of the tiger, the ongoing tiger that you have, the relapse prevention that craves and triggers and different things, you know, the withdrawals and all that you might have when you have heroin in your system.
You ever use heroin?
Huh?
Did you ever use heroin?
No, I never used heroin before, but we take the class in there.
And what about opioids? Have you ever used opioids?
I never used opioids, man.
But you learned some things in those programs that you think will help you with your drug addiction?
Yes, and a lot of participants in our class use heroin, so we also get a insight, and we had to do journals on, you know, heroin, cocaine, weed, you know, drinking, alcohol, and all this stuff. And she teaches us that you know, it's an ongoing problem, and you know about the triggers of the situation.
Well, tell me, if you were successful today, how do you plan to stay sober this time, given everything you've learned, the STAR program and the other programs? What would you do different this time?
What I do different this time, I eliminate myself from the crowd, because the crowd that you in, if you're not using and they using, they could be a great influence on you and cause you to use and put yourself in certain situations. Plus, I have a lot of things that's going on in my life with my mama being the only child, my family, my grandchildren. I don't only just hurt myself by using drugs, I hurt them by me being in this situation and not able to do the things I need to do for them.
Sometimes, though, you can't avoid certain people, particularly if they're your family members. Okay?
Uh-huh.
So avoiding certain people, just one thing.
Right.
You can't always do that. Let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
So what else do you think you need to do to maintain your sobriety?
Do self-evaluation. In another study we had is criminal addictive thinking. I was thinking about doing, you know, do positive things in your life. You know what I'm saying? Is seek help. You know,
About the seeking help. What kind of help do you think you should have?
Continue to go to AA classes, AANA, you know, anything, just, you know, AA and NA classes, any kind of sober group that they have, you know, for you to go into when you feel yourself feeling lonely, because sometimes loneliness will have you to where you want to go back to using drugs. A situation with your relatives or your girlfriend or something like that, depressing moments or stuff like that, you know. And they also teach us about, you know, do the things that you used to do, like going to parks and playing ball, or, you know, some activities there for yourself to keep you from having the prestige to going back to using drugs.
Do you think you should wait till you start having those feelings? Start going to AA?
No, I think you should keep in contact and keep going to classes, and because craving, like I say, cravings and triggers never get away. And you need to keep yourself on the right path in order for you to not go back to the stage where you was, or going back to the person that you was when we're using drugs.
Well, what about where you would live and where you would work?
Where I would live in with my mama in New Orleans East at 7706 Reindeer, and I go back to Cargill's offshore job job that I had.
How do you know you still have that job, or have you get that back?
I spoke with the guy, and he told me all I had to do is renew my my TWIC card. I had my TWIC card before I had started the auction business, before I started got my auction license.
Beckham, what can you tell us?
Yes, ma'am. Tirell, he is a trustee. He works in the kitchen on Compound 3. He's a Pride member, so he's There's no write-up since he's been here, and then of course he mentioned the STAR program. I think you notice one of his issues that he has. I tell him all the time is slow down when we talk, and he just wants to go really fast. But he does a good job here for us. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Renata. That's all I have. Thank you. Mrs. Wells, hear from you, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think she did not connect to audio, so she's just observing. So, Mr. Wells, what would you like to say to us before we go?
Well, I like to say, I thank y'all for giving me the opportunity to be come in front y'all with the board and hear my case out. And if I'll be granted parole, that I'll make sure I'll be a productive citizen and won't do anything to cause me, myself, and the board members any kind of embarrassment from granting me parole. And it had given me an opportunity to get a chance to be with my grandchildren and my mother and my daughters.
All right. I think we're prepared for that. Ms. Jackson. All right, Mr. Wells, you were denied a little over a year ago, and since then you've made a lot of progress. You completed the STAR program. You're also in some recovery, some relapse prevention, and I'm really glad to see that. I really think you made a lot of progress. I'm glad to hear you don't want to embarrass me. I lay in bed at night worrying about a parolee embarrassing me. I don't want to be embarrassed, Mr.
If I don't
Wells.
want to embarrass myself or my family neither, Ms. Jackson.
Okay. So my vote today, Mr. Wells, is to give you an opportunity to grant your parole, your early release, on the condition that you obtain a sponsor, attend at least 2 AA or NA meetings per week, and perform 4 hours a month of community service working with at-risk youth. That's just my vote, sir.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Jackson.
Mr. Freeman?
I concur with Ms. Jackson with the same condition.
Mr. Wells, I also agree. My vote is the same, to grant your parole, that you obtain a sponsor, also that you obtain a sponsor, attend 2 AA meetings a month, and perform 4 hours of community service work each month. Speaking of working with at-risk youth, so congratulations.
Thank you, Ms. Renata.
All right. Congratulations.
Well, maybe their takeaway, the family's takeaway after the first parole hearing was no attorney and no comments from the gallery. I think it paid off. Probably wouldn't have made a difference anyways, but it was funny how Ms. Jackson said, thank you for not wanting to embarrass me. I'm laying up in bed at night hoping you won't embarrass me. Although I gotta wonder how they do it. Imagine paroling, being a parole member, and there's going to be a certain amount of people that will do something that might, if not embarrass you, keep you up at night. But I can't say only in Louisiana where someone would get a 60-year sentence for possession with intent to distribute charge. It's like just classic Louisiana. 60-year sentence is what he got. And, on February 28, 1996, how they got him. Okay, so it's actually quite an interesting story that they go down. So they had his trial in 97, but let me go to the facts of the case because it's almost funny if it wasn't, so serious. So Agent Deputy Greenwood stopped to talk with the defendant. Well, okay, so first let's go back. Okay. The facts surrounding the defendant's arrest to testify at trial are as follows. Narcotics agent Todd of the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office, JPSO, testified that on February 16, 1996, at approximately 9:15 p.m., he and Deputy David Greenwood, also of the JPSO, were preparing to go on patrol. They passed a road in River Edge and observed that the defendant and 2 other people washing a car. Agent Vignes testified that they recognized the defendant and knew that there was an outstanding attachment on him. I'm guessing that's another word for warrant. Moral of the story, don't wash your car in February at 9:15 p.m. I mean, that does seem kind of cold to be washed, right? Hey, after a Google search, it says the average temperature in Louisiana is in February 66 high and 47 low. I did not realize it was that warm there. Okay, so Agent, I don't know what to call him, Vignes and Deputy Greenwood stopped to talk with the defendant. According to the agent, the defendant claimed not to be Tirell Wells and stated that he was only washing his car and that Tirell Wells was on the other side of the railroad tracks. The defendant was then handcuffed and patted down for weapons. The agent testified that while they were talking with the other 2 people who were washing the car, the defendant began reaching into his back parts of his pants. The agent went over to the defendant to conduct a search incident his arrest. According to the agent, the defendant claimed that he did not have anything on him, and the defendant pulled down his pants and underwear. Agent testified that he did not find any weapons and told the defendant to pull up his clothes. So it just is mind-blowing to think that this arrest is what led to a 60-year sentence, right? While agent continued the investigation of the other 2 people, he noticed that the defendant again was reaching into his back part of his pants, and he testified that he thought something was up and went back to the defendant. As the defendant pulled down his pants, the agent reached underneath his pants, under his buttocks, and felt a package containing a small rocks. Yikes. The agent testified that he retrieved a clear plastic bag containing 50 small rocks. He conducted a field test on the rocks and found that it tested positive for Pepsi. On cross-examination, the agent stated that he had information from an informant that the defendant was selling these rocks at that specific residence. The agent explained that on a previous occasion, an informant was with officers and pointed out the defendant. The officers dropped off the informant to protect his identity and went back to get the defendant. According to the agent, when they went back, the defendant was no longer there. The agent testified that his partner had learned of the attachment at this time. So I guess attachment is not a warrant, but it's something else. An informant basically said this guy's selling something, and that gives them a right to detain them based off of a warrant's testimony. Really? That kind of seems, an informant's testimony, that kind of seems sketchy. Deputy Greenwood testified that he was working with Agent Vignet at the February 16, 19, around 9:50 p.m. He was en route 4th District to pick up the patrol car in order to go on duty. And we were in separate cars at the time. Down stop immediately at the street. Deputy blah, blah. He just passed officers. Deputy Greenwood picked up the patrol. Okay. They're just showing the other testimony. Is there any? He testified that the 50 rocks were found on the defendant were packaged individually and in his opinion to be sold wholesale and was not for personal use. After a jury trial on October 2nd, 1997, the defendant was found guilty of possession with intent to distribute a controlled dangerous substance. On October 16, 1997, the defendant appeared for sentencing. The state reminded the trial court that the defendant had been charged multiple offender provisions for drug offenses and requested that he be sentenced as a second offender. The trial court sentenced the defendant as a second drug offender to 60 years with My God. 60 years as a second offender. Louisiana, you are messed up. Now, this is in the 90s. They're doing the whole, let's just lock everyone up forever. Oh, but you harm a child? Don't worry about it. Don't worry about that. You're cool with us. You can just get a suspended sentence, maybe a couple of years, but you're gonna get caught as a second offender. So, oof. I mean, let's just lock you away for life. That's insane. It's insane because what's wrong with the 10-year sentence? What's wrong with the 20-year sentence? 60 years? How do you write that legislation and think about it and say, see, we need to clean up our streets. We need to, all that's, war against drug, but why 60 years? On November 29, 1999, the defendant filed an application for post-conviction relief. May 31st, the defendant filed a motion. So we heard them talk about this stuff. And in a nutshell, he seemed to have won. We don't need to go through all of it because I don't know how many of you want to hear me read this entire thing. But as we know, the conviction affirmed, sentence vacated, remanded for resentencing. Richard, being always thorough, did find the next document that talks about the resentencing. And first he argues that the trial judge, well, this might have been, in denying motion to quash the multiple bill of information, he contends the multiple bill constitute double jeopardy, and therefore the state was collateral stop pursuing multiple bill because it was based on the same 1993 conviction for which the court was already ruled was insufficient evidence. That's interesting. The defendant also argues the multiple bill was untimely filed because it was filed more than 6 years after the original conviction. Again, I'll include this in the good news is, well, this was actually a relatively recent hearing. Let's see, this was on sorry, I should have, sometimes we got this spreadsheet. One day I should show it to you guys. It's really incredible. And so, yeah, this hearing took place in 2022. So it was like last year. So he's been out. He's been successfully out. We haven't heard from him, which is great. That is an amazing thing to hear. Love hearing that, right? It is so sad to do the revocation hearings. But yeah, he's, as we know, here's the next document I'll put in the description. He did win the right to appeal, but then he got revoked, right? So it was like, and that's what Mr. Wise was talking about initially. So he did get a chance, he got revoked and he came back, and now hopefully he does stay out. It was interesting in the first hearing. Mr. Wise was like, well, I saw you back in, let me tell you something. You got programs, you got a few write-ups. He never finishes sentences. Mr. Wise has this thing where he starts saying something and then he veers off in a whole nother direction and then veers off in another one. And then he does the whole snorting thing, and it just, my least favorite judge. And I'm happy he's no longer there. But yeah, he was like, I saw you 8 years ago. And it's like, well, yeah, but it's been years. Like, that's going to be part of your, and there's a law enforcement opposition. And it's like, well, there's he says that also in the denials. And there is always law enforcement opposition. It is a blanket statement. It means nothing because they are never not opposed. So it's actually the most worthless piece of opposition that can exist, and yet he always brings it up. Anyways, I'm done ranting. Thank you for being here, and with that, I'll let you go.